And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. It's June 20th, 2022. My weekend was a blur. I don't know about yours. Let's dive right into it.
Are we talking like because of adult beverages, or are we talking about...
No. That's not, I don't call that a blur. I'm trying to think
what do you call that?
Not a blur. A blunder, maybe? Not a blur. What would you call that?
I don't
Things
know.
get blurry. But I wouldn't call the weekend a blur. Just because of that. Successful, maybe. Sometimes it's successful, but we'll see. Mark, how are you feeling today? Look at you. You're like studious over there.
Well, I'm just right. There's nothing to talk about, so I'm just writing down all these stupid little things to talk about. So, I'm good. I'm good. I don't really have any complaints.
You're fine. There was you'll like this. There was a team. We went to a travel basketball tournament this weekend up in Cortland, New York. There was a team. They were called the Titans. However, they were like a dark navy and silver, and they had blue navy stars down the side of their gray jerseys. And then reversed, they had the gray stars on the... Okay. And I went up and I told them, I said, you do realize you are not the Titans. You are the Cowboys.
And it probably was the nicest thing anyone said to him all weekend.
That was the best compliment they had gotten.
What better compliment can you get?
I have been to lower state.
But here's the thing, just so you know. Now that you're talking about it, like a day or two later, obviously you remembered the Titans.
Look at you go.
See what I did there?
I do see what you did there. That was good. There's I need to send you a clip for anyone have you heard of Shane Gillis yet?
That's something else. Let me write that down.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I asked you a question. Have you heard of Shane Gillis yet?
Shane Gillis.
Yes. So no. Shane Gillis is a up and coming comedian. He's actually he's on like a couple of like bigger stages. Like people are going to know him real quick, but he's from like that Upper Darby, Delco area.
Oh, really?
He's a Pennsylvania guy.
Okay.
Yes. Big white guy. But he has a Remember the Titans joke that I have to share with you afterwards. That is really, really, really clever. He does this like 5-minute skit on Remember the Titans.
And it's really, really not clean enough for you to say no.
Probably not. We'd probably get away with it, but it's just not.
It's just not worth it.
If it's not parades, we're not willing to necessarily just.
Okay, well, I have lots of stupid little things to say. I will start with this.
Right.
I was laying in bed yesterday morning.
Okay.
It's Sunday morning. The first place I have to be is at like 1:00.
Okay.
So there's no reason to rush out of bed. So I'm scrolling through my phone, and I'm remembering there's things I'm finding, things I'm clicking on. I just remember there's something I was supposed to look up, and then I remembered that you told me to find the Ariana Grande impersonation.
Oh yeah.
Because whenever I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking of you. And I pulled it up and I saw it was on with Jimmy Fallon.
Okay.
And then I remembered I have seen these before.
Okay.
They are brilliant.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
But she did Britney Spears.
Yeah.
She did Christina Aguilera.
Did a whole bunch of it. She did Madonna once. I don't know if that was the one.
In this one, yes. She did Celine Dion.
Okay.
If you are bored,
the Celine Dion,
5 minutes of like, it's mesmerizing how good she is. And Jimmy Fallon's good at the ones he does too.
Yeah. The Celine Dion, when she gets up and talks like her, like gets the crowd up, it is great. Really, really
unbelievably talented.
By the way, Titanic is like top 10 on Netflix. And I think it's all the like 25th anniversary stuff that's kicking in. But it's like top 20 on Amazon Prime right now. It's top 10 in the Netflix category as well for like most watched movies.
It's so
so Titanic is
so ridiculous.
Titanic's having a little bit of a surge, a little bit of a Celine Dion surge.
It happened just like when it became. What happened was too many teenagers fell in love with Leo at the time. Like when I think when it first like showed up, it was critically raped. And then when you've got 13-year-old girls who are going to see it for the 7th time because they love Leo, then the critics were like...
Did the critics crush it, though?
They didn't crush it.
Okay.
But it went from being, oh, my God, you've got to see this, to, it's good. And it really... There is that appeal. Like Joe Smith says, no one will like it but people. Which his dad said. He stole his dad's line.
Yeah.
But there are those aspects where if it becomes too popular, it can't be critically acclaimed.
Yeah.
And I think that happened to Titanic. I mean, when you watch it again, it is incredible.
It's
the
fun.
detail of the ship and it's incredible.
It's fun. Going back to the Celine Dion part, because I don't think we actually said this on air. I keep waiting for this Celine D, like the Titanic song to come. What was it? Deep in My Heart, Forever in My Heart, Ocean of My Heart, Heart of the Ocean. What was the name of that Celine Dion song? If you know it, comment in the thing. I can't think of the name
Hold
of
on.
it.
You want me to sing it to you?
Well, I don't want to hold on. Celine Dion. I keep waiting for her to pop back up in the charts because after you and I had talked about Stranger Things the other day, we actually looked up the Running Up the Hill song.
It's Kate Bush, isn't it?
The Kate Bush song. And I said to you, I go, you're not going to believe it. It was number 2, I believe, on the Spotify charts.
I don't know if we talked about this. I don't know if we've even talked about this. One of the songs.
Can I finish this?
Oh, go ahead. Is there more?
Well, I was just going to say, it was top 5 on the Billboard.
Who was top 5? Kate Bush or Celine Dion?
I'm still talking about Kate Bush.
Oh, okay.
Who are you talking
Well, you were talking about 2 in one sentence. I don't know. Okay, go ahead. So Kate Bush is top 5.
So Kate Bush at one point was top 5 on the Billboard charts. That single, like the Running Up the Hill song, they had reached number 2 on Spotify, and then I believe in iTunes it had gotten into the top 10 for like pop or something like that. So I mean, literally, what she did with that song and what the show did for that song now, it is now like in a different pantheon than what it ever would have reached when it originally came out.
Well, I think Loverboy and Styx, I think, are out on tour this summer.
Okay.
And what was it, Heaven in Your Eyes? Loverboy had a hit from the original Top Gun.
Okay.
So just because of the new, it's not in the new Top Gun, but because of the new Top Gun that people are now reviving the old Top Gun, its plays, I read an article, was either 2 or 3 times higher than it should have been.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, that's cool. We're touring now. So, 25, 35, what was it, 80? Oh my gosh, 35 years later, they're getting a surge from an old song because of a new movie. Yeah. And they're just like, oh, that's cool. We'll take it. But with digital streaming, I mean, it's just, and how many kids discovered, well, kids watching Stranger Things didn't know Kate Bush back then so it's new to all of them.
Yeah.
And then all the Top Gun. I mean, how many parents were like, you have to watch this one? Or Maverick was so good they wanted to watch the other one.
Right.
And then they discover this music. And it's, it's a love song. It's cool. It's what it is. It's hard to hate.
Yeah.
You would hate it because it's from the 80s and you don't get it. But
how many parents do you think forced their kids to watch Top Gun this summer?
I wish I'd made my son watch. I say made. He watched it before years ago. Right. I wish we'd have said, hey, we have to go see this movie, but you want to see the old one first.
Okay.
But he will be the first. He's raved about it to everyone, and he's not a huge movie guy.
Yeah.
But he's just like, it's awesome. And there's no aspect of like, you really need to go see the first one first.
Yeah.
I think people can see it fresh out of the gate and love it.
No, I believe that. Heather said the song is My Heart Will Go
That's
On.
It.
Like you got that one right there. That's
I mean, really. And this is, I don't know. It's certainly like, I don't own it. I've never sat around and I was like, I wonder what song I should pull up. I should pull up My Heart Will Go On. When you hear it, like if there are 5 songs they want to put in a time capsule for the aliens to find once Earth has been destroyed, that might be one of them.
What do you know? What are your other ones? Do you have any?
I don't. Ones? She sings so well.
Yeah.
Like I would think there'd have to be a Whitney Houston in there.
Okay.
Just because like what a voice, like when God was creating voices, this is what he meant to do.
Okay.
So that would probably be I Would Always Love You from The Bodyguard, I think would have to be. Yeah, I don't know. I think from like the rock and roll world, I think Dream On from Aerosmith is like
that's a good one.
Is about as good as it gets. Yeah. I mean, from all the other stuff. Yeah, that would be interesting. If we should do that someday, because people would be riveted.
What would be like
we should do a genre. Like, what is your if you need one time capsule country music song? Is it Friends in Low Places?
Time capsule. I think that's up there. The other one that I would have said, Friends in Low Places is a good one now that I think about it. The other one I would have said to you is just My Way by Frank Sinatra. I think probably goes into the
Sinatra would probably be in the time capsule.
It's a Wonderful, or What a Wonderful World.
Oh, Louis Armstrong.
I think that probably goes into the capsule because I'm trying to think of like the neat thing about the time capsule. Like, let's say you cap it, like you can only pick 10 songs, right?
Okay.
And they're going to go in this capsule. And the goal is to just give people an idea of like at different points, this is what music could have been, or what music, like this was the cream of what music could have been. I think the neat thing about that is you're not just picking the 10 best songs. You got to try to find these pockets of like what would define jazz, like what would define crooning, like what would define country, like you're trying, like what would define rock. So you're trying to find these pockets of times and what it would mean.
That would be a fascinating, if 10 was your limit, because right off the top of my head, I'm thinking the Beatles have to be there.
Right.
Elvis has to be there. But once you start getting categories where you said we have jazz, we have country, we have hip hop.
Well, the trick is capping it.
R&B.
Like you can only fit so much in the capsule,
right?
And that's what makes it.
So now you're like,
here's my thing. This would be my thing with, like, if we're doing the music one, my thing with Elvis is it was such a visual, and you and I, we don't disagree on Elvis. You think Elvis was a better singer than what I think.
Yes.
Okay. And so, like, I don't think Elvis was bad, but to me, Elvis was the suave, it was the
package. There's no doubt about that.
I'm assuming this capsule is an audio capsule. Like, there's only so much space to fit this audio onto it. Like, what are we picking with it? And if we only have 10 spots, you would have to really sell to me that Elvis is going on it. Because I think what would happen, I think we would start to get in. I think we'd agree on 5 or 6, and then those bottom 4,
absolutely,
you'd be like, listen, Elvis, and I'd be like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm there on it.
No, I get it,
but I'm also younger, so that probably.
Well, and it's like you would think like Michael Jackson is in the argument.
Yeah,
but
here's one we
does Michael Jackson have a song that is as the one you just said, is What a Wonderful World, by who isn't nearly as famous on a catalog wise, but for that one song, it's a good question.
Here's some suggestions. Lisa had Freddie Mercury must be in the capsule. Queen is brilliant. Can we do let me ask you this, are live performances allowed?
I don't know. You tell me.
If we're doing live performances,
how much is in the capsule?
You'll know the answer better to this. But if we're doing the live performances, because I've seen this come up on my YouTube like 3 times, and I always watch it. But his performance
at Live Aid,
yes, I mean that would have to be. It's certainly inconsiderate. I mean, we'd probably end up with like 25, 30 on the board, and we'd have to figure it out.
And you'd have to figure it out. No one would be right.
If you're allowed, if that's what I would pick, like I would actually take that live performance.
Have you seen Bohemian Rhapsody? Oh, okay. Have you seen Rocket Man?
I have. I enjoyed them. I don't really.
I want to see Rocket Man again.
Okay. I don't. It's not musical. It's not parody. I don't love the music biopics because I feel like the story, you're never going to top listening to the performance. It's like trying to duplicate something you're just not going to be able to do. Did that make sense?
Yeah. The thing that I liked about Bohemian Rhapsody was it told the story of where they came from and how to say that Freddie Mercury was an unlikely superstar is an understatement. But just in watching Bohemian Rhapsody, I was like, wow, they have a lot more good songs that I remember.
The thing that I liked, and I think I have this right. The thing that I remember about the movie was there's a scene where they are showing them make the music, and they are doing like rep over rep over rep, and Freddie is just making them do it over and over and over again. That was one of the things that I liked about that biopic, but that's because it wasn't necessarily the story about him. It was the story of the music and how it was created and what they put into it. Most biopics don't follow that. They follow the person, and then you're kind of stuck down this path of a story that's not nearly as entertaining as the music itself. It's not as entertaining as the art that they created.
No,
so
I tell you where
I struggle with music biopics.
I saw that in the one about James Brown.
And do I have that right, by the way? Isn't that Bohemian Rhapsody? It actually shows them like for 15 minutes they're like making it and they're repping it out.
Oh, and he's like, it's not high enough. You're not high enough. You're not high enough.
And it's actually showing what they did.
I saw in was it Get On Up? Was that the James Brown one where he was like, no, it's and he's telling him, and he's like, no, on the downbeat. And they're like, you're playing it on. He's like, no. It's on the deck. And because I remember the guy, and I don't think James Brown knew what he was saying. Sure. He's like, you're playing it too soon. You're playing. And they're like, no. And the one guy looks at the other, goes, you want you to play it on the downbeat. Yeah. And he's like, we never play it. He's like, no, but that's why. And then they did it and it worked. And they did that too in a movie. I don't remember what it's called. It's about the Beach Boys. When Brian Wilson kind of lost it. Okay. There was a time in the beat, he was like the main, and he was just like, I'm not touring. Okay. And he had a lot of mental health issues. And then there's a really sad story about, he was in a Britney Spears type conservatorship. Is that what it's called? Okay. Where someone was controlling his money, but it wasn't a relative. Mm-hmm. And the relatives had to come in and fight and sue for him to get control back. It was really sad. But when he wrote Good Vibrations, yeah, there was something about it. And they kept playing it over, and he's like, it's not right. That's not right. And they're like, my God, it's right. And he's like, on? No, it's not. And then all of a sudden on like the 73rd take, he's like, that's it.
See, maybe I'm like, selfish isn't the word, crude. Like, I'm just way more interested in their artistic struggles than their personal struggles.
Yeah, I think the artistic, the personal struggles make some of the artistic struggles more impressive. I know I read a book of the 8 books I've ever read. One was about Guns N' Roses. Mm-hmm. And one of the people that was there early on, whether it was a groupie or whether it was a manager or whatever, she's like, they basically lived in a storage shed. Okay. Other than they would have like a girlfriend here or a girlfriend that they would go stay with. Yeah. But they're like, to think that they wrote this stuff mm-hmm. that has really changed the rock and roll landscape from living, like, it's incredible. Yeah. First of all, it was incredible they're alive, yeah, let alone that they created this art. So sure. Yeah, I think that's part of it.
There's like 3 things.
Oh, hey, Jude.
So there's the first one is, that's basically why, like, to me, that's the fascinating thing about Billie Eilish, is like they basically did the whole thing from their bedroom, which is absolutely just absurd. Hey Jude would be my Beatles choice, and I'd personally be upset if Unchained Melody wouldn't be in there.
So, now here's my thing, and I know Hey Jude, if from the Beatles, wouldn't it be Let It Be?
All right.
Because those are the two.
I am
to
nobody.
me, that is the Coke and the Pepsi of the Beatles.
Totally. I am nobody. I find, to me, Let It Be is a little overrated. I think it's a great song. I understand why people love it. I think it's slightly overrated. So, like, for example, if you like Coke better than Pepsi, to me, then it is the Pepsi.
Okay. I can see that. So you're not saying it sucks, but you're saying it's not an A+, you're saying it's an A.
This is the hardest part talking about. Like, I think you and I do okay talking about this stuff because, like, just because we talk bad about something, like, I think I understand, like, you still like it. Like, it's not like you're saying it's horrific. I'm not sitting here implying Let It Be isn't a great song, but we're talking about, like, we're trying to fit this into the capsule, right?
So you would pick Hey Jude over Let It Be.
I think Hey Jude, not matters is the wrong word. I think Hey Jude would be harder to find a song like it. And I don't think you could say that about Let It Be.
You know it's about Julian, right?
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't know that? Hey Jude is written for John Lennon's son, Julian.
Okay.
Because John Lennon's son, Yoko is not Julian's mom. Do you remember Julian Lennon? He had a couple hits.
No, not musically, I don't.
He had Sitting on a Pebble by a River playing guitar was one. Okay. Playing guitar. Okay. I can't remember the title, but he had like 2 hits. Okay. But John was married to Julian's mom and then left Julian for Yoko.
Okay.
And it was McCartney wrote it for Julian. He couldn't call it Hey Julian but you know, it's going to get better. Yeah. It's basically the whole.
Oh, totally. If you showed up and you were the only person that ever heard Hey Jude and you were the only person that ever heard Let It Be, and I said to you, like, I've never heard it, what's the closest song you could find to it? You would have a hard time, like, finding something to show me what Hey Jude is. I feel like Let It Be.
I don't disagree with that.
I feel like Let It Be would be an easier compare. Like you'd be able to kind of find something that fit into.
See, Let It Be is a little more anthemish. I do get what you're saying.
Yes.
I do, and listen, they're both great. I don't disagree.
Well,
Unchained Melody is a good tune. It ain't making it.
That's why it's the time capsule.
It ain't making
these are
the time
These are the things that are, like this is what you have to. This would be the other thing too, is like, when is there a cutoff? Like, how far back do you feel like this time capsule has to go?
Oh, you mean like, does it count Beethoven's Fifth and the Ode to Joy?
Like someone said Mozart, Serenade number 13.
And so you'd have to hum that to me.
Off the top of my head, I can't. But I'm implying, but it's Mozart.
It's probably decent.
I bet if you heard it, you would know.
I bet I would know it too.
I bet you everyone would know
it. It is one of the things I learned from my classic music class in college was how many of these famous pieces that Disney used through like, Fantasia and stuff like that. You're like, oh, I've heard that before. They're like, because you watched Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I believe that. Lisa says classic Lennon versus McCartney argument. She is team Paul.
That is a good. I knew a guy who was very team Paul who loved it. But
what is, like, as a naive person, because to me they're the Beatles. Like, I know the members of the Beatles, everything else. So what is the 20-second? Give me the 20-second breakdown of like what is the debate? Like,
I think they were both individuals. So like McCartney wrote "Hey Jude," and Lennon wrote "Imagine."
Okay.
So they were very much artists and songwriters, and they would come in and be like, hey, I wrote this one, and it's just, who do you like better?
So it's just,
but they both have a very, like, I don't think, and I'm not a Beatles historian, but I don't think very often the two of them sat down together and with a blank sheet of paper and were like, hey, I think they kind of went their ways and came in and like, this is what I have.
Okay.
And but I just saw this because McCartney's touring now. Okay. And he just turned 80s. We talked about last week. And someone wrote a thing about how so many of and I don't remember, Sgt. Pepper, I think, was one of them. He rattled off like 3 albums. Like, if it wasn't for Paul, these wouldn't have happened. Okay. So, and the crazy thing is, Paul was the youngest. Paul was a kid. Like, I think Paul McCartney was 25 by the time the Beatles were done. Okay. Like, I think he was 17 when he was writing some of this stuff. And so anyway.
But isn't that how that, like, not how it usually goes, but I mean, like, it's not that you have it or you don't, but usually it takes somebody that's different to make this stuff pop, like, to separate yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. But
somebody has something that it didn't take experience. It didn't take time. Like, you kind of, like,
you just had it. Yeah. Yes. That was the thing I liked about Rocket Man, and assuming that this part was true, it showed how talented of a pianist, or just as a musician, not just that he can sing and he can play the piano, but when Elton John went into the one part and he just played it back to him. Okay. And the guy's like, why did you stop? And he's like, because that's as far as you got. Okay. And he's like, I'm just playing what you played. So that's like, obviously he's good, but then you hear stuff like that. And I think at the time he was like 15 or something. Yeah. So, he's better than we even give him credit. If it's possible for Sir Elton John to be even better than we give him credit for. Yeah. Like, I think in the musicianship sometimes. Like, I think I talked about Prince playing guitar last week. Like, they're just better than we even think.
Yeah, no, I believe that. I have not seen Jurassic World yet.
Neither have I. Not. But here's what I want to say about it. Because I have this. Oh, I wrote Jurassic Park because it was wrong. I had my son pull it up because I said Jeff told me it sucked. Jeff told me no one likes it. Critics hated it. Audience didn't hate it. Okay. The audience scores like 70 some. I want to say
dinosaurs on the screen. It can't be bad.
So it is one of those. Now I would have to check some of the other ones because maybe they do it all the time. Yeah. But it wouldn't shock me if I enjoyed it more than 30%. Like, if I went and watched it, it was like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I think there's this aspect too. Like, anytime, I mean, we're so far removed from the Spielberg aspect of these movies, but I think if you're going to it because you're expecting like this world building aura of like Spielberg, like you're not going to get that. You're going to get cool dinosaurs doing cool dinosaur things. And if you go in with your bucket of popcorn and you just want to see a summer blockbuster, I can't imagine it's bad. If you're a critic going in and wanting like the reproduction of Spielberg because they're bringing all these people back, you're sorry.
Like, I think that's perfectly said.
I watched the Spiderhead movie. I was excited to see on Netflix.
Oh yeah, what was that about again?
So it was a story in the New Yorker. It's basically about a guy who's studying chemicals and how to control emotions in the human brain, but they use prisoners to do it. So they find people who are in jail for things that like there's a lot like one of the people in the prison committed manslaughter. So they're not a murderer, but they did something wrong. And so they find these people to do these experiments on. And long story short, the whole point of it is just kind of like controlling your human emotions. What are human emotions? How much do they matter? Are they more powerful than what we even think? You know, that's really like
Was it good?
It was awful. I was I was devastated because I did
not see that answer coming.
I was devastated. And this is where we talk so much about, I mean, maybe you would think it's better because you didn't read the story.
Oh,
because I had read the story, and again, for anybody who wants to read it, it's like a 10-minute short story read in the New Yorker. You can literally Google and it'll come up. It's an incredible read, one of the best short stories I've ever read. And this movie just didn't encapsulate the aura that I thought it would. And this is the other part too. It wasn't like, I think what got me excited about it is they didn't just go get like some B-listers to make a good movie. Like Miles Teller is in this. Chris Hemsworth is in this. The Smollett girl is in it, who's really, really good. She was in a couple of HBO series.
Okay.
So like the cast is incredible, and it just failed.
Just flopped. Have you seen the movie? Is it called Hustle? Is it Adam Sandler?
Yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
I did.
Is it good? I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah. So it's enjoyable. If you're not in, like, this sounds so weird to say, because like I'm not in that world, but I'm like one removed from that world.
What is it about?
So it's about an international basketball player. It's about an NBA scout who goes overseas, finds this international player, brings them over, and they go through the whole like NBA draft process, working out for teams. So it's kind of like a coming of age, defeating the odds, long shot story. But the weird part about it though is I think people enjoy it because they don't really know that world. Like if you're not in that world, it's fascinating to see like the challenges of coming over and trying to get into the draft process and how difficult it is. And like there's one scene where he walks you through the numbers of like, here are your actual odds of like being an international prospect and making it. And then they have all the, there's current players in the movie, and like Anthony Edwards, the rookie of the year from last year, he plays the...
No, Anthony Edwards was the original Goose.
Anyway, Anthony Edwards, great. Anthony Edwards plays the villain essentially in the movie, and he's really good in it. So I think for some people, like if you're not in this world, it's really neat. Like all that stuff. If you're in that world or like one or two steps removed from it, it's a cute movie. It's not something that like I would brag about or go tell someone to watch. But it is. But it's.
So if I watched it, I wouldn't want to rip my eyes out. But
no, it's cool. It's cool to see. It's cool to see. And here's like for younger kids, it's awesome because there's all these NBA stars and they're in it, and like it's really, really from that aspect to see. If you're like a 17-year-old kid, this movie's great.
I don't know if I ever told you this story, and this is a real life story that can go into 1,000 different avenues, but it happens to be about basketball. But even people who hate basketball can stick with it. You remember the guy that played for San Antonio? His name was Troy Neal. He was a shooter.
Gary O'Neal?
Gary Neal. Yeah, it wasn't an O like Shaq. His last name was just Neal. He went to Towson, was the college so he's, how many NBA stars come from Towson?
Sure.
And he said he was just a shooter. That's really what he was. He played in Europe a little bit. And he was in one of these NBA summer league, whatever.
Yeah.
And he said he had Greg Popovich, who was the greatest coach in the he's on the NBA's Mount Rushmore, coached it for San Antonio. He's still there. But and he said Greg Popovich happened to be wherever they were, and he happened to walk into the gym and watch half of one of our games.
Yeah.
And I was hot for half of one of those games.
Yeah.
And Greg Popovich is like, who the hell is that kid? And they're like, his name's Gary Neal, and he played, and he's like, then I got a tryout, and I got this, and I got that. And he ended up, he won a couple NBA titles with San Antonio. And when he was telling this story, he's like, A, what if Popovich doesn't walk through the gym?
Sure.
And B, what if I'm just ordinary in the half of a game that he watched? But when he was there, I was on, and the rest is NBA history. And it just shows so much of dumb luck and timing in life.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the 10-second, the John Morant, he was at an AAU tournament in an auxiliary gym, and some guy for not Morgan State.
Morehead State.
The fourth assistant for Morehead State happened to be walking by, and the vending machine was in the auxiliary gym. Walked in, looked up. John Morant happened to do something, stayed an extra 10 minutes. Morant played well. His only Division I offer. Now could be the MVP of the league. Like, it's just, there's so many stories like that that are built.
This is a football story. You remember Leon Lett from the Cowboys that made the gap? He had one in the Super Bowl and one on the block. Yeah. But Leon Lett played in the league. He was a good player.
Yeah.
He went to Emporia State, which, of course, you've heard of Emporia State, because who hasn't? Right. It's like an NAIA school in Oklahoma.
Okay.
I think he's 6'7". They called him the Big Cat. I think he's like 6'7", 300 pounds. And a coach, I think an assistant coach from the Cowboys was on campus. I think he was visiting a college buddy that he had played with that was now coaching at Emporia State. So he's on campus of this little school, and he's walking through the gym, and he sees this he's a defensive lineman.
Right.
He sees this huge defensive lineman go up and dunk a basketball playing a pickup game.
Yeah.
And they're talking, and he's like, who's that guy? And the guy's like, oh, that's Big Leon. And he goes, why doesn't he play football? He goes, oh, he does play football. He's really good. He's our best player.
Yeah.
So then they start doing film, and then he ends up in the NFL for 10 years with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Because when this guy's walking through the gym, he dunked one.
Yeah. But see, that, the difference between the stories you told, that one's people just being, somebody was just stupid. Because, physically, how many people look like Leon?
That they missed him, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
That was just people. That's the difference between those. In my opinion, that's the difference.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because there are people that just that's why so many people nowadays, it's do they fit the physical range? Do they have the tools? And then you try to fill in everything else.
Did you ever hear how Mariah Carey got discovered?
Mm-mm.
She was a waitress. I think she was a waitress, or she may have been working for a caterer, but she was at some big event.
Okay.
And there were going to be music people there, and she had her demo tape. And the guy, she's like, here's my demo. Of course, she looks like Mariah Carey. So the guy, and the story is the guy was leaving, and it's a cassette, and this is back in the day or whatever, and whatever limo, either he's in a limo or his car or whatever, he's a bigwig, he pops it in, and he listened to it, and he turned back around and went and found her.
Oh my God.
But how many of these guys get them? They throw them away. They don't
Oh yeah.
What do you got? He actually listened to it.
No. And there's lots of stories. The Toby Keith one is very similar.
I don't know the Toby Keith.
Guy played the wrong tape at a radio station, and it happened to be one of Toby Keith's. And it was "How Do You Like Me Now," and it was he played the wrong tape, and the song that ended up playing was an old version of "How Do You Like Me Now," and then people called in asking to hear it again and again and again, and it just picked up.
Really?
Yep. Guy played the wrong tape.
Did you know? Here, this is riveting to everyone. Did you know? Ice Ice Baby was the B side.
Okay.
Because back when Ice Ice Baby came out, it was still DJs playing 45s.
Okay.
At least in some places.
But this is I don't I'm trying to think how to say this without sounding like an absolute jerk. It just goes to show how little thought was put into some of this stuff, though. Because if you had to use records today, the first song of the B side would be just as valuable as the first song on the A side. But back then, that wasn't how they viewed it. That's not how they looked at it.
There were some, Elvis was like that. Because, Don't Be Cruel was the flip side to Hound Dog or something like that. But with a lot of them, they want to sell two of them. Mm-hmm. So the B side's never a hit. Because they're going to sell this one for 6 weeks, then they're going to sell another one for 6 weeks,
sure.
and they can't give away their best 2 songs.
Mhm.
But the Play That Funky Music, the remake he did of the Wild Cherry song, was the A-side, and then some DJ in like Detroit flipped it. He liked the other song and he listened to it sometimes, so he started playing it.
Right.
And then it took off.
Because see, like the thing they're catching on to now with streaming, like the difference between a CD and streaming. So before with the CD, what a lot of people would do is you'd lead off with a decent song. Your number 1 single would be like 7, 8, like somewhere in the middle. And then at the end of it, you would have like one really good like remix or something like that, just to try to drag people through it. What they've realized is with streaming is that if you do that, after you play the 13th song, it ends. So it won't stream, it won't go to number 1. So now what a lot of these streaming artists do is they front load the beginning because they're just hoping you doze off and you don't realize you're listening to the next song. Did that make sense?
Okay.
So like it's literally changed the order of the way they. So now like songs 8 through 13 on some of these albums, like they literally are the 5 worst songs on the album. Now not everybody does that, but ones that are playing the algorithm and understand it, like they basically, it is, what do we think is the best song? 1. What do we think is the second best song? 2. And they're literally just going like down a row of what they think will be the most played, because it's all about just getting them to hear the next one. It's completely changed, because the CD, you would have to literally take the CD out in order to, but now like without having to change it, they just want to lull you in to the fact that you're listening to the next
Did you
one.
ever hear this story? And I know this says, we'll just tell music stories now. Because we're such big musicians. So the lead singer from, is that important? Or is someone criticizing our show? Oh, okay. I saw you pick up the phone. You never, I look at my phone all the time during the show. You just looked at yours.
I almost never. No, mine just turned back on.
I thought it was like someone was telling us
mine just turned back
on. The lead singer from AC/DC died.
Okay.
And they got a new lead singer.
Okay.
So, and he's like, it was for the Back in Black album. It just happened to be, so he's like nervous. This is world-renowned rock band, and I'm the lead singer, and blah, blah, blah. So they give him this guitar riff, and they're like, you need to write lyrics because you're the one that's going to sing them. So they said he tells his story. He's locked in this little room. It's like almost like a college dorm. He's like, there's a desk and a toilet, and like, that's it. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I'm in here, and I'm just playing this riff over and over, and I'm trying to write lyrics to this song and whatever. And he goes, I'm so nervous. And I do it, and then I go get drunk because I was like, so the next day we're coming to the studio to see, and he goes, I'm like new, so I'm there early. And the only person there with him was a producer. His name was Mutt Lange, who's legendary. He was married to Shania Twain for a while. Okay. And he's this legendary rock and roll producer, just the two of them. And he goes, and Mutt's like, yeah, your lyrics, they're not that good. They're not that good. So he goes, after a while, the other band members start strolling in because they're rock stars, because they can be late, and they're listening, and they're playing it back, and they're listening, and they're asking questions about the lyrics. And after a while, he goes, well, this isn't really what I wrote. And they look at him, Angus Young, who's like the greatest guitar player. That's an exaggeration, but he's the legendary guitar player. He goes, what did you write? So he rattles off what he wrote. He looks at the famous producer, goes, those lyrics are great. And he's like, no, they're too wordy, rock and roll. He's like, you're wrong. And she was a fast machine. She kept her motor clean. She was the best. And he's like, I brought these lyrics, and the famous producer told me they don't work. Okay. And if it wasn't for the other members of the band, that they would have never gone through.
Rifting is interesting because there were two things I thought of as you were telling that story. I have watched videos of John Mayer like riffing. Okay. Like he's sitting with the guitar. Playing. And he actually has one of the segments is with one of the guys that's famous for Apple Music. He has like the #1 talk show on Apple Music, and he has all these guests, and he had John Mayer on it. And John Mayer just for like 3 minutes was basically walking him through the process. And he goes, sometimes like for half an hour, I will just sit there and it doesn't matter what comes out. He goes, I just spew it out. And he goes, in that half an hour, I'll find 4 or 5 things that work. I'll keep them, jot them down. But he goes, I've had times where I'll sit there and I'll strum for 20 minutes without taking a break, and I'm just letting it flow and come out. And the second one is because of TikTok and social media, all these freestyle rappers now have found like a platform, right? Okay. Because they weren't, obviously they have like battles and stuff like that. You can actually go to and listen to them, but like nobody.
Like 8 Mile.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, kind of. Like, I know you're trying to be funny,
No,
but kind of, like,
I
kind
love
of.
8 Mile. I think it's great.
But now, like, no one was gonna buy like a freestyle album. It kind of defeats the purpose of freestyle.
Right.
But now with social media, you can follow these people, and like every day they're doing a different freestyle, and so now they actually have somewhere to put this stuff. But that idea of like that riffing and just kind of like the willingness to this guy was nervous. So there was an unwillingness to just be wrong. Like there was an unwillingness to fail.
Right.
And I think like if you listen to Mayer talk with a guitar, or if you listen to these freestyle rappers, there's such a willingness to just like mess up. Like it's, you know, like it's okay if something doesn't go exactly perfect or exactly right. And if you listen to some of these freestylers, they'll go like a bar or three without rhyming, because the whole point is just like, we're in it and we're doing this and then they'll find it. And then all of a sudden it's like every other word is like hitting. And so I don't know. I find that
we should do a show where we just rhyme the whole time.
I thought you were going to say we should do a show where we just riff, and I was going to laugh because I was going to say that's essentially what we do.
To take this to another topic, I just read this over the weekend. I got clickbaited into this. Oh my gosh, the Christina, not Aguilera, Applegate, who was what's her name on Married with Children, was her first. She's made this comment that for a long time she kept just getting dumb blonde scripts, and she was just like, give me something else, and she turned down Legally Blonde because she was just like, I'm not, I'm the Airhead Kelly. And she was like, after she turned it down and saw what it became, she was like, whoops. Yeah. Maybe I should have done that one. But yeah, I thought that was funny. That's another great. The ones of people that turn down roles.
Well, just the ones.
I think I told you Halle Berry turned down the Sandra Bullock role in Speed.
Yeah, you did tell me that.
And there are just who I just read another one about somebody that they offered. Bill Murray got offered something, and he ended up not taking it, and it ended up being someone else. But like a lot of those guys that it was offered to them and they didn't get it, it might have been Forrest Gump.
Okay.
Maybe their original thought was Bill. Now I might have just totally made that up, but there was something that I read.
It sounded good.
Yeah. I think I'm right, but I might not.
There is it's always, you just never know. You just never know. But I think the part of it that gets overblown is like, it's not necessarily easy picking this stuff. It's not like, it's hard. And like, you just use the word pigeonhole. Like, I'm sure there's actors and actresses that just, they would have been perfect for something. And they were just terrified of like, is this all I'm ever going to be? Like, is this all I'm ever going to do? And so they just pass on it. And then that script hits and, the right director picks it up. And the next thing you know, like, it becomes a big success. So I'm always that aspect of why people choose to do things. And I don't know. I guess like to tie this all together, because you brought up the guy being afraid to write the lyrics and the riffing, and now talking about like picking scripts, there is like people's fear of failure really, really sometimes roadblocks them.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. People are afraid to be wrong.
Yeah.
Whether you're a music executive or whatever, when you see something, even if you like it, and now don't get me wrong, there's all kinds of things that everyone else likes, and we're like, I don't really get why that's so good.
Yeah.
But there have to be these who are just like, I just can't be wrong. And it is how many people have missed out on stuff just because it's why so few people are genuinely funny.
Yeah. Because
they're afraid, the overriding fear of telling a joke that falls flat. So they just, or am I going to offend someone?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. My joke's a little off color. Most funny jokes are a little off color in some way or another, or they're offending to people. My mom still, every time I make fun of somebody in the room, my mom is like, you can't say that. I was like, well, it's a joke, and they get it.
Right.
So, but there's so many people that are afraid I'm going to offend someone. Someone's not going to like me. They're not going to laugh. So they don't tell any jokes all day.
Yeah.
Every day.
No,
that would suck.
I'm with you. We'll just go through a few of these to end. Let me see real quick. Rules that could have been. I always think of Chris Farley almost being. Roles that could have been. I always think of Chris Farley almost being Shrek. I think I've told you about that. They have like a third of the movie started with Chris Farley's voice.
He could have done Shrek.
I mean, now it's a completely different movie, but
it
totally
would have
worked. Yes,
it would have worked.
I agree with that. Netflix, the movies that made us a really good series with a ton of backstories and insight, and that kind of movies, highly recommend. I've seen most of these. Have you watched
I have
this
not.
at all?
I've never heard of it.
You would really like this. They basically start from beginning to end and how the script was picked. And you would hate this one. They did Elf. They did Home Alone. I think they've done Die Hard.
Okay.
They've done Jurassic Park. I'm trying to think. So they've done like a bunch of them. They release them in like groups of 4, like batches of 4. I think they're on like series 3, series 4 now.
Okay.
Really, really. It's like each one's an hour long and they just walk you through. Like the Home Alone wasn't a house. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, it wasn't a house. It was an actual set up and designed. So that way all the traps and stuff could work.
No,
yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting tidbits as you go through and you watch. And then like one of them that they talk about is like the casting what ifs and who was offered and who said no and on and on. I think they did a Cameron one. Was it Terminator? I can't remember, but they did a James Cameron one. That was really interesting.
I think I told you this too. And I can't remember her name. Because Kate Winslet was not the first to offer for Titanic. Leonardo DiCaprio and someone, maybe Claire Danes, had just done Romeo and Juliet. Mm-hmm. And they had both been offered. Leo had said, like, I'm doing it. And she was like, I don't really know if, like, you and I should do another love story. And, you know, so, yeah, that would be another one. Because turning down Titanic would be a bad career move.
Oh, yeah, that worked out okay for him. Let's end it there. And
except for the people who actually got on the Titanic. That was a bad career move.
Well, those weren't career moves, but they were certainly bad moves.
It ended most of their careers.
Yeah, but they didn't get on it for their careers.
No, I get it. I know what you're saying.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. Anything else before I hop off? That was good.
Yes.
That was fun. There's some good stories.
No, I have one more thing.
Let's hear it.
Here, because you love this. I saved this. I brought this just for you.
Oh, this is like a talk. Like, are we about to go for like 5-10 minutes?
No. This is about I'm going to tell a story. You're going to laugh, tell me it's stupid, and we're going to disagree.
Okay.
Pittsburgh Pirate guy named Sawinski.
Okay.
Yesterday, became the first player in Major League Baseball history to do something. And you love these.
Let's hear it.
He's the first rookie to ever hit 3 home runs in a game.
Okay.
The last one being a walk-off. Once again, you don't think that's all that impressive. Baseball's been around for a long time.
That's not fair. I do think that's impressive. I don't think the fact that he's the first to do it in a 150-year span makes it.
Don't you think that's what makes it? That demonstrates how hard it is?
That's the point I'm making, though, is that you and I disagree of why it's impressive.
So you think it's just impressive on its face?
This is what I'm saying. Like, you're telling me it's less impressive because somebody happened to do it in like 1997.
Yes.
And all of a sudden it becomes less impressive.
Yes.
Why?
Because nobody ever done it before.
But that's the point I'm making. There'd only be 2 people to ever do it before.
Well, now there's only one.
This is the problem.
And it's some guy named Sawinski.
This is the problem with baseball records. And you and I have talked about this. Most of the longevity records that you tell me. So it's like never in 80 something years or never in 100. The problem with that is like if you break it into percentages, it means the second person is literally 99.9999% as close as the first person.
But in this case, there is no second person, and there may never be.
But there probably will be. It's just
150 years from now.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So if somebody would have just happened to do this in 1950, whatever, it doesn't make what he did any less impressive.
But nobody happened to do it. That's why it's impressive.
Baseball records are so stupid.
Here, we'll agree.
They're so dumb.
If somebody does it 150 years from now and becomes the second, you can text me and say, see, I told you it wasn't that big of a deal.
I probably will. But see, this is the thing, though. I don't think that's what I would text you. What I would text you.
No, I said 150 years from now.
No, I get the joke. I'm playing along.
I thought you weren't listening.
No, I'm playing along with you. But you keep saying, like, I'm acting as if it's not impressive. I know what he did was impressive. I just don't think it's any more impressive whether or not someone did or didn't do it beforehand. Like, that part doesn't matter to me.
And I get it. And that's where you're wrong.
No. If 2 days from now, someone else randomly does it.
Now it's less impressive.
It's not. That's what I'm meaning.
Sure it is.
It's not impressive. No.
Because if someone does it 2 days from now, it happens like multiple times a week.
I like records where the number, you don't need a longevity part of it. I want a record where the number itself is the most impressive part. So, like, if you said to me, if you came in and said someone hit 5 home runs last night, has anyone ever hit 5 home runs in a game? It's probably hard to do because you probably usually only get 4 or 5 at bats, right? If you came in and you said someone hit 5 home runs last night, I don't care that no one's ever done it before. I care that someone hit 5 home runs. That's insane. So I want the actual statistic. I want the actual events to matter more than the fact that nobody or the longevity of the record.
But
that's more impressive.
But doesn't to kind of like the lay person when you're like, oh, someone hit 5 home runs. You're like, well, yeah, that happens a lot, right? You're like, no, it's never happened before. And it puts it into context. Like the number here isn't the 3 home runs. The number here is 1. He's the only person that's ever done it as a rookie.
And that's what I'm saying to you. I like those records don't fascinate me.
They fascinate
me. I need the number. The actual event needs to matter more than the day. Like,
what else? The other part that fascinates me is that it doesn't fascinate you. I don't get it.
It doesn't. It's an incredible, listen, it's really, really awesome. You said he's a rookie?
Rookie.
Yeah. So it's awesome that a rookie did that.
Checking that off my list of things to mention to you. Also want to mention, I saw The Little Mermaid this weekend. Yeah. It is shocking. Everybody that has a singing part can sing. Like, it is Little Mermaid isn't my favorite show. It's really cleverly done. I'm always curious to see, like, how do you have ocean scene? Like, how do you do an ocean scene and some of those aspects were really, really neat. How the director is a young guy who's like, he's not 30 yet. I don't think it's his first directorial ship.
Okay.
And at least at the CTL, and it was really good. But whenever somebody needs to sing, like, I'm always shocked at the local talent. Now, I say all this saying I think they're almost sold out for the run. So if you want to get tickets, you should go on today, and there are some scattered seats still available. But
I think my niece, pretty sure my nieces are going Thursday.
It is. They can sing.
Anything else? I was going to end the show, and then
that's good.
You had a list. I was
just checking. Oh, the last thing was I think today it was 45. It was 45 degrees this morning at some point, according to my phone.
It was great.
45 to 80 is a stretch.
Since it happened so recently, it's just not that odd.
But a month ago's May.
I'd be like, that's crazy. That's when it would be.
Oh, you're such a tool.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
We'll see you.
We'll see you.